can express and take you, a long way. Rapping on a song can take you a long way. Putting graphics on the side of a shirt can express something. These things, these signifiers of who we are and what we're down with. But I definitely envision a world where we don't have to have these signifiers. We don't have to tell people out loud who we voted on. That can be something private. That we don't have to, let me go ahead and be Christian Dad for a second, have, basically soft porn on the front of every, on everyone's page.
Right, website, catalog cover.
Website, we don't have to use that to sell clothes.
Right.
And maybe I'm right, but maybe that's not right now.
So you guys, underlying your work, you both want to change the world. I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about, if you will, some stories of things that you're involved in.
I think the difference is that I'm inspiring to, but this man has already done it.
Truth.
This guy has helped shape culture. There's nobody more influential in fashion and culture than this guy, at least in the last 2 decades. So thank you for putting me there with him. But this is the man right here.
But what Danny's done with manufacturing, he made the top manufacturing in America and in the world. And, when people in manufacturing, people that work in clothing, they say the biggest threat to America is Chinese manufacturing and us not having domestic manufacturing. And you see this example right here where there's something different. It's literally like one of those things where it feels like everything is like wrong in the world. And then you see like a 6-year-old help a older lady across the street.
Right.
And it gives you hope for where the world is going. And that's the feeling that we got, the feeling of aspiration and hope through the truth of industry, not a promise, not someone just promising year after year, election after election, we're going to do this, but someone that is doing exactly this and doing it pretty under the radar. I've never seen Danny, I've seen him communicate with maybe 40 people or something. I've never seen him change his voice. I've never seen him change the use of his words and where he places his words to influence in any way. And that is a goal of mine. And I think, I don't like people say you should, but it's a goal of mine, and I influence people. It'll end up becoming goals of others to be the maximum version of who we are. Be in this video game of life, be your maximum character of who you are, and that's where your ultimate happiness will arrive.
One thing I want to touch on, because this is something we've talked about. There's many different paths to get to a certain destination, but being aligned on that destination and, Aloe with Aloe's values, getting people into yoga, getting them into Shavasana, getting them into that meditative state to really show people and teach people how to control their minds and to amplify their positive subconscious and to suppress their negative subconscious. And that's a really important thing. For one, something that Ye has had to learn to do, on his own, but that we all have to learn to do. We've talked about, kids on, iPads at 2 years old and with, cell phones and social media and video games and all of these ways we need to give people an outlet on how to deal, with their minds. And today I was saying, hey, I'm a big believer in digital, and we were talking about digital, and he has started his own school already. I don't know if the listeners know that.
We're on our 3rd year, but we're leaning into people in industry like Danny who understand how to organize our next systems. Schools are systems, politics, cities or systems, and for us to simplify and embrace certain things. Like one of the things, it was this room where they do fittings, and the table was really like 2 feet wide and 6 inches long. And I said, "Why is this table shaped like that?" And they said, "Well, all they need is room for the laptop." And I was like, "Oh, we got to put that in the schools, to have a school that instead of saying turn the phones off and turn the laptops and iPads off, we embrace that is there, and then learn how to use all the things that are there."
Right.
You know, learning how to use technology. I can have a tendency to just be like paranoid of robots, but it's the way that we have to exist, because I mean, Star Wars is my, college. I spent way more hours in Star Wars than I spent in college. And when I see those, like, the way those robots are working in the factory, I walk through that space and know that, in the same way we have a position of influence now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we'll have a position and influence. And some of the people that are very influential now will still be very influential then, but the world will be a lot more like all the ideas that George Lucas channeled in Star Wars. Like, he was channeling. Like, how do you make that? How do you invent Pixar? Like, that's like that's a lesser known thing, that George Lucas went and put people together to invent Pixar. So something I was saying when I was seeing the factories today with Danny was, the people who made fighter jets or modern flight, they had to get people who were the best at engineering at that time, and what they were engineering boats and trains and cars, and to take the best of the best and get them to do a completely different kind of vehicle. And that's what I've been pushing Danny on. Like, let's do a different kind of vehicle. Well, what is that vehicle? A vehicle for happiness. What's the vehicle for happiness? Simplifying our everyday life. Right now, everything has been driven, no pun intended, as GM, took up the train tracks to make sure, and suburban communities got like spread out, so you'd have to drive more. We haven't designed our world up to this point to maximize our existence on this planet as a species. And I'm really big on this concept of species right now, that's not separating us by China, America, Russia, race, gender, socioeconomic class, age, but just say species. So I'm really big on like outlawing stairs. And people will get into like arguments with me with stairs, but like, and okay, yeah, we can have up ramp, but not upstairs. Everything should be designed like an old folks home, because if we're lucky, we'll all turn to old folks.
Yeah.
So why are we so selfishly designing, while we're in the position of power to determine what the world looks like and how it functions, that we're not considering how it should be in the future? Right. And that future is now. We're in 2022, and everything happens for a reason. So, you just get to a point, right? And every time you get to that point, everyone wants to say, oh, it's mental health. And everybody wants you to apologize a million times, because everybody want to have everyone so doped out, so controlled out, that you're not allowed to even stand up for the things that you're handing to your family. And the idea of taking the control and opinions or anything away from the mother or the father takes away a person's meaning in life. It doesn't matter how much money you have, the meaning that's going to be directly your church, your home is your original church. So even to this day, it's like I'll still give Kim advice on things that can help, because that's going to go to the kids. That's going to go, right. That she's still got to, basically 80% of the time raise those children. So I want to raise this, when people saw this, what I was going back and forth on is, hey, I have to be able to throw my version of what people would throw, like a Rick Owens or Margiela or Yeezys on, to the curriculum, because my parents were able to do that to me. They showed me anime when I was 8 years old, or my dad had drafting tables, or I was in computer programming class, or I was programming video games in 7th grade. And the standard curriculums that are there, we have to balance them, because it shows you how to interact in today's society and all that. But we have to balance things with curriculums that allow for self-confidence, because so many of the schools in modern indoctrinations take away from the confidence that these future leaders would have in themselves. And those less confident leaders lean on lying as opposed to leaning on the truth, leaning on the truth first.
You guys have both accomplished so much. I'd love to hear about what you haven't done yet that you're working on, excited about.
I haven't finished that house in Malibu, I'll tell you that. I took the house, and I took the stone floors were the same stone that Apple bought the quarry for this the floor, this Tato Ando home. And Tato Ando, I believe he's 84, but it would be polite for me to say that he's considered to be the world's one of the world's greatest architects. It would be yay for me to say he is considered to be the world's greatest architect. He is the yay of all the architects. And what I did was take the windows out, because it's right on the water, just to hear the water, to have the unconditioned air, and use the natural light. And then we're putting up this parking lot mesh. Now we're just going through everything. I'm driving all the time. I'm seeing like park. I'm like, I like that mesh. Right? Why can't we find this mesh? This mesh is perfect. Because, Tesla said the earth is a giant generator. We'll be in California right now doing this podcast. I got some ideas on how to turn the podcast to a Godcast by putting it where this can be open to natural light. And instead of having like these like 5 versions of lights and all this, it's like, just like how that light fell down, we were already onto something. So we will remember what this was like. And just by even just simply going and getting a James Turrell space that then we can do podcast in, or having James Turrell spaces where people do yoga, is the next level of what we do. And James Turrell and Tato Ando have worked together a lot. And I've, been to the Rodent Crater, donated to the Rodent Crater. So on the process of this Tato Ando, I've just been there. Maybe it's a thing like going through divorce also, to get this like house and be able to just take everything out. And it was, extremely therapeutic. But in it, we started solving things, ideas of what we would do for actual shelters. Because people are always like, I'm totally down to meet with the guy from Boxable. Like I want to see it, it's fine. The idea of it is good, but I know Elon stays in a Boxable. I believe it's the thing we need to give displaced and nomads, and these are other words for homeless, would be the same thing we would have for ourselves. So I'm a bit of a Robin Hood in a way where, people can go and say, okay, this like multi-billionaire spent $4 million on Balenciaga in 1 year, but did I bring the designs back down to earth as much as I could? Because Gap didn't take it to $20 the way I wanted to, because they were still trying to protect the classism of the idea of Balenciaga and the idea of Gap, or the idea of a Gap and Ye collaboration and Balenciaga collaboration. My thought is to take it and bring it. I mean, let's take it and get it to free, but at least get it to $20. So as I, talk about this idea that the house was $75 million, I ended up getting it for $57 million, and then going and breaking the house in half and saying, let me look at the bones of what the Tato Ando, the greatest living architect's idea was, and what his idea before having to deal with the clients and make these compromises, right? And through it, we found ways that we can apply what we learned from that to parking lots. And I'm gonna just public domain the concept, right? So that all architectural teams can do this. Remove stairs, use ramps, create environments where people can lock the door from the inside to be able to go to sleep. Have a modern Turkish bath type situation that has privacy so people can get clean and have room temperature food. Shelters completed. Next subject. And I said that out there not to say, okay, every architectural firm in the world attempt that and see what we get on